Hey guys, I want to talk about something that I think a lot of us wrestle with, especially if you're wired to be ambitious, driven, always looking to grow, provide, and lead. But there's this tension I've felt already, and it hit me hard. And the theme of it is alignment versus escape. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about like big vices. I'm more talking about the subtle escapes that we make and the ones that look really harmless, right? Even productive at some point. But underneath it, they pull us away from who we want to be, right? So in today's episode, I'm going to get honest with you how I started how I started drifting without realizing it. And in my example, I'm just using chess. And I know it sounds silly, but you can replace that with whatever, right? In my example, I'm just going to give chess as an example, and the over optimizing became a form of running for me, and more importantly, how I'm really aligning with what actually matters. And what I mean by that is, if you ever felt like you're doing a lot but not making the progress you want, or you're stuck in the habits that feel off but hard to stop, I would say that this segment would be for you. And I'm going to try to not make it extremely long, but I'm just trying to kind of like process this all in my head, off the top of my head. So first off, let's rewind a little. I'm someone who thrives on structure, and this is actually more of a recent thing than something that I was that I had a natural ability for. I think after my son was born, you really do need structure, and I have my morning routine. I wake up at 4:50 a.m. pretty much on most days. I time block. I train jujitsu in the morning. I try to get my workouts in the morning. I try to plan out my weeks with intention, but a few months ago, I started to see something shift. And again, I'm kind of going back into this bad habit more recently. I wasn't sleeping as well, and it was really throwing off my mornings leading up to my afternoons. And I started to miss my 4:50 a.m. wake up. And with that small shift, I started feeling a bit groggy and my mind wasn't as sharp. And that's when it started. Instead of leaning back into discipline, I found myself not picking up my phone in the gaps. Honestly, not for work, but and honestly not to connect, but to play chess, right? If I wasn't on my phone, I was physically on the computer, and I would just kind of get lost into that realm of just playing. Now, full disclosure, I grew up in an environment where I played a lot of video games, right? So like getting lost into that world and in that space is very, very easy for me. And this can be for anyone that has a different kind of escape. I guess that's the best way to put it. And look, overall, I'm sure you're saying chess isn't bad. It's a beautiful game, but it became something else for me. It became ultimately what I just talked about. It became an escape, right? Now, there's a psychology behind that, right? Here's what I realized. We don't escape because we're lazy, right? We escape because we're overwhelmed, misaligned, or emotionally unsettled. And for me, chess gave me a hit of progress, a win, a sense of control. It was an easy way for me to feel like I was doing something right, even if I was avoiding what really needed my focus. But the real problem wasn't chess. It was that I wasn't facing the misalignment in my own life. I was feeling overwhelmed by, being a new dad, right? By the pressure to perform, by the lack of sleep, and the weight of trying to do it all by myself, right? And when we don't take time to slow down and process that stuff, we find ways to avoid it. Sometimes those escapes are obvious, sometimes they're sneaky, and examples can be like food, right? For others, it can be work, right? We can get consumed in work. And for me, it was games, right? In this case, it was chess. And that distraction disguised as a mental stimulation. And it wasn't just about being tired. It was ultimately feeling disconnected from my purpose. And here's something else I want to be transparent about. I don't do this alone. I invest in coaching. I've probably spent almost $15,000 this year alone to have people in my life who help me stay aligned and accountable, because I know myself. I know that without that level of accountability, I start, drifting faster. And that kind of investment isn't just about business strategy. It's about, staying true to who I say I want to be, right? So if I want to have a certain level of production, well, I'm being held to that standard. If I want to be a certain kind of father, well, I'm being held to that standard. Having someone in your corner who calls you out, reminds you of your goals, and keeps you from settling. It's worth every penny. And again, I don't see it as a cost. I see it as a commitment to becoming the best version of myself. And if you're serious about alignment, I'll challenge you to ask who is helping you stay accountable, who's helping you course correct, right? Again, the level of accountability doesn't have to, you don't have to pay for it. I do have other spiritual mentors and stuff like that where obviously I don't pay to have, but I think it does help from a secular standpoint to have some level of accountability where you have to pay for it, because if it comes at a cost, obviously there's value to that. The cost of misalignment isn't just wasted time, in my opinion. I think it's disconnection from your purpose and from your values and from your people, right? So I started noticing I wasn't as present with Jen, my wife. I was actually being more distracted when I was with Jordan. Even my work started to feel reactive instead of intentional. I was checking the boxes, but I wasn't in it, at least not fully. But here's the thing. The kind of drifting actually happens very quietly. Nobody calls you out on it. In fact, people might even praise you because from the outside, everything looks fine, right? You're producing, you're making money, whatever it is. But you know deep down, you start negotiating with yourself. You say, hey, things like, hey, I deserve it, right? I deserve a break, or at least I'm not doing something worse, right? But deep down, you feel that gap, right? And the ache of misalignment. And sometimes you do need to be grounded and ultimately held accountable. And there's a lot of small things, right? So let's talk about decisions we make in the small moments. So alignment is rarely destroyed in a day, right? It slips away through small decisions. So if you're choosing your phone over prayer, right? Or if you're skipping that workout, postponing that conversation, those moments don't seem like a big deal, but they stack, right? And they create momentum just in the wrong direction. And that's why it's not just about fixing big problems, it's about fixing the small ones before they ultimately blow up and they grow. So I started auditing my decisions when I felt the urge to play another game of chess, and then another game of chess. And then I felt like I was in control, but I wasn't. I don't know if that even makes any sense, but I asked myself, what am I actually avoiding? I had to stop myself and say, hey, what am I avoiding? What am I feeling right now that I don't want to sit with? And most of the time, the answer wasn't profound. It was simple. I was tired. I felt pressure. I needed affirmation, but naming it gave me power. So one thing I've one thing I've found helpful is building what I know, or I kind of call it the realignment ritual. I don't even know if I call it that, but it's something I do when I feel myself drifting, and here's what it looks like for me. There's moments of time where you just want to be still, right? Something as 2 minutes of stillness, right? No phone, no noise, just stillness. Breath work, right? I think I've mentioned in my previous videos of breath work rituals and routines that I do. And one thing that was suggested is just a quick journal prompt. I haven't really done this that often, but I am working towards it. What am I running from? What matters right now? Those are all things that you want to definitely write down. And then the physical shift, right? Just standing up, stretching, doing 10 push-ups, right? It's not that complicated. It doesn't have to be flashy, but it interrupts the drift, right? So you're going to have to find something that aligns with like what fits into your kind of your palette. Now, realignment isn't about overhauling your life in one moment. It's about getting back to center, even if it's just for a few breaths, and doing that consistently builds momentum in the right direction. So if you're feeling this too, here are like a few anchoring questions that help me realign. One, what am I doing to escape right now, which was one of the examples that I gave when I was playing chess. And two, what am I avoiding, right? Are you feeling tension that maybe you haven't acknowledged? Are there certain habits that are serving me, which ones are like sabotaging me, which ones are like bringing me down? And what would my ideal week look like if I lived in alignment with my values? And here's something powerful. Identity reminders, right? Sometimes the fastest way back to alignment is reminding yourself of who you are, not what you do. All right, I'm going to say that one more time. Sometimes the fastest way back to alignment is reminding yourself of who you are, not what you do, right? Not what you produce, but who you are. To me, I identify myself as a father, a husband, a man of faith, a leader, someone who values presence over performance, purpose over productivity. So when I remember that, I show up differently, not perfect, but definitely intentional. So I want to say this, alignment isn't, again, about being perfect, right? It's about coming back again and again, all right? We're all going to drift sometimes, especially if you're in a season of growth or change, especially if you're a parent or, leading people, right? Or building something from scratch. But the win isn't about just drifting, right? Or never drifting, I should say. The win is in noticing it early and returning back faster. You don't have permission to shame yourself. You just you don't need to punish yourself. You just need to notice and return. You need to give yourself grace, courage. You need to give yourself permission to begin again. Realignment leads to another that builds consistently, and consistency becomes, in my opinion, identity. So I want you to go even deeper for a minute and talk about some triggers. So do you guys ever notice how you drift usually begins the same way? Maybe it's like checking your phone, and then after a tough call, and then you're reaching for snacks when a deal falls through, or when something becomes extremely stressful. And honestly, that's what happens to me quite often. And that's when I start to default to something that's easy, right? Something that's familiar. I want you guys to recognize your personal triggers, right? For me, it was drifting into going on the computer, and then going on the computer, browsing then into playing chess. So if this lets you prepare for those, like just realizing these personal triggers lets you prepare for those moments, you can actually pre-decide how to respond. So instead of grabbing your phone, maybe you grab a journal, right? Or instead of scrolling, you just go for 10 push-ups, or you stretch, or you walk, or you breathe. And look, I know this might sound like you have to be robotic, right? And it might seem that way, but it's ultimately about becoming aware, because awareness gives you options. And here's one thing I ask myself now: is this choice adding energy or draining it? Is this helping me become the man I said I wanted to be? And that one question helps me keep myself honest. So yeah, I mean, let's be real. The world isn't built for alignment. It's built for extreme amount of distraction. Our phones, our feeds, even our routines are full of noise. So if you want to stay aligned, you have to fight for it, and you have to design for it. That means building systems that support who you want to be. So my coach always told me you don't have to necessarily plan for the whole week. Even just planning within 24 hours gives us enough time. So things that I want you guys to consider that I do: silent mornings, right before the phone goes on, evening walks without headphones, planning. I know people like to plan a week. I just like to plan 24 hours. If it's other things, obviously, like trips and stuff, yes, plan a week. Limiting input, so limiting input so I can deepen output, right? So you might need to put limits on screen time, or cleaning up your calendar, or taking a weekly, time off. Whether it is making your environment serve your alignment, and ultimately not sabotaging it. So that's where I'm at today. Still building, still growing, still realigning every single week, every single day, and I still fail. So I just want to spend that few minutes of vulnerability. And if this episode hit home, I want you to take that challenge for yourself. Again, take 15 minutes today, reflect, get honest, ask yourself the real question, and don't wait until things fall apart to make that change. Maybe it's putting your phone down. Maybe it's getting to bed early, right? One thing that I learned was not to set my alarm to wake up, but actually to set my alarm to go to bed, right? So those are all things that, you have to have hard conversations with yourself if you've been avoiding it. And whatever it is, you got it, man. You guys got it. So if you want to go deeper, or if you're looking for alignment in your business, in your family, or in your life, and you just want to reach out, feel free to shoot me a message. I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to be part of that journey. But yeah, thanks for rocking with me. Until next time, stay aligned, stay grounded, and I'll catch you soon.
John Lee Real Estate, find you the best rate. All throughout Philly like Schuylkill Expressway. Talking to people who out of